Okay, welcome in. We are going to be looking at different types of sampling techniques today. So for sampling techniques, we have four main types. We have a simple random sample, we have a stratified random sample, a cluster sample, and a systematic sample. So what we're going to do in this video is we have this list of data. This is a list of names. We have 32 names in this list. They are separated male and female and by age group. Just so we can use that when we're doing some strata later. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go through the different types of sampling techniques, and we're going to pick 5 people for each one of my sample to survey. Okay, so we're going to start with the simple random sample. So simple random sample, which can also be called SRS. SRS. Okay, so in an SRS, each person here on this list has an equally likely chance of being picked for my sample. So each person here has a 1 in 32 chance of being picked for the sample. So ideally what we're doing in a simple random sample is I would take all of these names, I would write them down on a hat, a piece of paper, throw them into a hat, shake the hat, and then pull out 5 names. Everyone has an equally likely chance. Okay, I don't have a hat, or I can't really show you that on a video like this, so I'm going to use a random number generator. So you can use a random number generator. You can go on Google and you can type that in. There's plenty of them on there. You can also use your calculator, which is what we're going to be doing today. So before I do that, I want to assign numbers to each of these people. So this is going to be 1, and we're going to go to 8 here. And then this is going to be 9 to 16. And then we're going to have 17 to 24. Then we're going to have 25 to 32. Okay, so everybody has their numbers in between. We can count there. We're going to use our calculator to find our random numbers. Okay, so basically it's the same thing as putting our names in a hat. So we're going to start here with this button here that says math. We're going to go to math, and then we're going to go over to PRB. So I'm just going to use, you can either use a right arrow to scroll or the left arrow for PRB. And there's a couple different commands for random integer. So this first one here just sets it up. So we actually want to use the 5th one here where it says random integer. And I want to select a random integer between the numbers 1 and 32. So I am going to go 1, comma, 32, and then I'm going to close that. I'm going to hit enter. So this is telling me number 17. So that is Nick. So Nick is going to be picked for my SRS. And I want 4 more names. So I'm just going to hit enter here. I'm going to get 26, then 5, 15, and 20. So those are my numbers. So I have 17, 26, 5, 15, and 20. Okay, which means I am picking Nick. I have Clifford would be 26. Number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be London. Number 15 would be Jill. And number 20, let's see, 17, 18, 19, 20 would be Colin. And that is my simple random sample. So in this simple random sample, everyone had an equally likely chance of being picked. These are my choices. Now the next one I'm going to do is called a stratified sample. Now there's a lot of different ways to stratify your sample. So in a stratified sample, you're going to first split the population into groups. Then in those groups, you're going to randomly choose. So we can split this into a couple different groups. We can stratify by male or female. We could stratify by age group. And we could actually do both. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that you can stratify. This guarantees, so if I split this into male and female, let's say, and I want to pick, well, I want to do an even number here. So let's say I'm going to pick 6 in this one. That means I'm going to pick 3 males and 3 females. So that guarantees that I get a representative from each group, an equal number of representatives. Okay, So in this case, if you look back to the simple random sample, you had 3 males and 2 females. This will just guarantee that I have an even split. So let's do 6 people for this one. Okay, so if I'm splitting this between male and female, I need to reassign the numbers. Okay, so now I only have 16 of each. Okay, so for my males, I will have 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, and 13 through 16. So I'm going to go back to my random number generator. So now in my hat, I'm only putting the male names in, and I'm going to pick 3 of these because I want 3 from each group for a total of 6. So I'm going to go math, over to probability, random integer, and I want the numbers between 1 and 16. And I'm going to pick 3. So I get 6, 9, and 2. So in this case, I have number 6 would be Andy. Then number 9 would be Nick. And number 2 would be David. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my females, and same thing, I'm just going to do 1 through 16. So here's 1, 5, 9, and 13. And let's see here, we'll go a random integer again between 1 and 16. So we get 5, 3, and 13. So in this case, you'd have number 5 would be Kennedy. Number 3 would be 1, 2, 3, Lily. And then number 13 is Amy. Okay, so this is stratifying based on gender. So now we have 3 in each gender. We could also split this into age group and pick 1 from each age group if we wanted. We could split it based on other factors as well. You could split it between married and not married. You could split by just the letter of their first name. There's a lot of different ways that you could split the strata. That's what we call how we're splitting it. So in this case, we split by gender. Okay, the next type of sampling that we're going to look at is called cluster sampling. Okay, so in cluster sampling, what you're going to do is you're going to split the population into groups again, and then you're just going to pick an entire group. Okay, so I'm going to split these into groups. I'm going to split it into groups based on age and male, female. You can either just do all age or you can do more than one. So here I'm going to go cluster based on age. We'll just do age. We'll just do age here. So I'll have group 1, group 2, group 3, and group 4. So everybody's in the cluster, and now you're just picking one of these clusters. So you would just put the numbers 1 through 4 in your hat, shake that hat, pull it out, okay? So now let's take a look at just doing a random number generator 1 through 4, and we'll see which group we're gonna pick. So random integer, 1, 4, 1. So we're gonna use the under 18 group. So we're gonna use U18, and then we're gonna survey everyone in this group. So all members. Okay, so cluster sampling is not always the best one, but sometimes if you want to get a good representation of each group as a whole, that will be helpful. In this case, because you clustered by age and you have people from all different age groups, it's really not that great of a technique to use because now you're only surveying people that are under the age of 18, and they're going to be vastly different than people in the other different age groups. So it really just depends on the type of sample that you're running for which one is favorable there. The last one that we have is called systematic sampling. Okay, now in systematic sampling, and let's say we're going to pick 5 in this one. Okay, so for systematic sampling, what you're going to do is everything's going to be sorted just like it was in our very first example, the simple random sample. You are going to randomly pick a beginning number, and then you're going to arbitrarily choose what you're going to another number to go by until you get your 5. So what does that mean? Okay, so that means I'm going to pick a random number to start with. So I am going to start with the number, let's see, we're going to pick a random number between 1 and 32. And that's 21. So I'm going to find number 21 on here. So that's 8, 9, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I'm starting with Sharon, and then I'm just going to pick every 6th person until I get 5. So you can automatically pick what number. So we start with 21. That was picked randomly. Okay, this one has to be picked randomly. The other numbers, though, you're just doing a system. So the system is every 6th member or individual data point. Okay, so then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Pete. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. John. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lily. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kennedy. So in this sample, we are picking John, Lily, Kennedy, Sharon, and Pete. Okay, so we started with Sharon and we went every 6th until we got to the 5 people. So that is a good technique when you have a lot of data, maybe like even going through a phone book or a list of student names, and then just picking every 20th from there to do your survey. So these are all your different types of sampling techniques. There are 2 other sampling techniques that are not going to be the best ones. Those are going to be a convenience sample. So a convenience sample would be sampling that's easily available and not random. So in that case, let's say, okay, well, where did you get this list? Well, these are just my friends' names or my cousins' names. So I just surveyed people in my family because it was easy for me to do. And well, that's not really a good way to do sampling. So that's the first one. And then a voluntary response sample is when you're requesting information from a population, and then the responses are voluntary. So that would be like a Facebook poll or something like that. Or you get an email from a company that you've ordered from before, and they're just asking for responses. The people that are responding are going to be only really be the people that care about it, because we don't really have time to do all of that. So that is a voluntary response sample. The last thing I want to do is I want to talk about sample size. So sample size, this is not a very big sample. There's 32 people in my sample. You always want to look at your data and see how big your sample size is. So in this case, let's say that the whole population was 32 and I was picking 5 or 6. Well, that would give me an adequate sample size because my population wasn't that big. But if I had a population of 100, 200, 1,000, and I'm only picking 5 for my sample, that is not a very good sample size. So you always want to look for that when you are reading your research. All right, so that's what we have for sampling techniques. Thank you for watching.